So the first step when you're assembling your cylinder head is you got to make sure you get off all this old gasket. It's real important. This got to be absolutely clean. This deck. So I usually use like a single edge razor blade, which works pretty well, I think. Scrape it. All this residue. Get it all off. Don't worry about scratching the deck. It's actually probably a little better to get scratched a little, because it'll actually grab the gasket better. Holes in there, you know. Just want to get all this off. So after you get the deck all cleaned up nice and clean, the next thing is you got to make sure that all the bolt holes are clean. So one good way to check it is if you just get a head bolt and just screw it into the threads with your fingers. It should be able to screw in all the way as far as it needs to go. And this is important because the head torque is critical. It's got to be exactly right. So if you got one of the bolt holes is kind of dirty, it's going to affect the amount of torque that you can apply to that bolt, and you're not going to torque the head enough, and you might get your head gasket going to more than likely leak. So you got to make sure that, you know, so just make sure that that bolt goes in nice. If it doesn't, you got to get a tap, and then tap the threads and chase, you know, whatever is the kind of metric thread size. You know. So you just want to make sure everything goes in up there all the way. All those holes, and then we'll be good. So the last thing I like to do is make sure it's really clean. So I just get some brake clean. I just kind of wipe this off with all the cleanly. You can't get it too clean, really. You just kind of get off all that extra little dirt off of there. And gasket spaces. So the head gasket goes on. You don't put anything on the head gasket. So here it is. Nice Velcro gasket. And it only goes on one way. You know, look at your holes to see which way it goes. If you don't get it on, I see I got a hole here, an oil drain back hole on this end, and the oil drain back is over here. So this side is up. Don't bend the gasket. If you do, you're going to screw it up. Don't do that. It's on there. So here's our nice cylinder head exchange, rebuilt cylinder head. Again, you got to make sure this deck is really clean. You're going to get crap on it from transporting it, probably. So some brake clean. And the deck. Back here really nice. And then particles. So when you put on the head, just make sure, because you've got some other parts here that are going to be attached to the head, but it's important that they're not interfering at all with the head, and that the head is seated down all the way. Just an important point. Make sure you don't got any wires pinched in there, hoses. You know, it's just down on the deck, getting flat before you start putting in any bolts. Another thing you want to make sure you do when you do this job is to change the oil, because the oil has got fouled with all the coolant from the engine, and it's not going to lubricate as well, and it's corrosive. So you got to get all the coolant out of the oil. So this is what this is the old oil filter, so you can kind of see the milky kind of, you know, it's just got that, and it's all in the crankcase and everything, so you got to get all that out. So make sure you change the oil when you do this job. Very important. So here's the other area where the head gasket failed, and it kind of was getting cooled in the water jacket right here. See where the ring kind of just broke, and it just kind of corroded there, and it's, you know, we're getting a lot of coolant out of this coolant jacket right here. Pressure getting in there. So in this engine, the head bolts are they call torque to yield bolts, which means you tighten them in a couple of steps and then you turn them several degrees as a final step in torquing the head bolts. Okay, so now these head bolts, the thing about those is that you got to replace them, or they tell you to replace them. I replace them because you might stretch them past the limit of being able to apply enough torque if you try to use them again, because you're going to stretch them out a lot when you torque them. So you replace the head bolt. So the new head bolts I have, the old ones in this case, are these hex style, and then I got head bolts from Napa, Felpro, and then Napa, or Felpro, in all their wisdom, decided to use a hex style of head, which takes a 12-point male socket to go in there. Alright. Okay, so the first thing you want to do then is, when you put in the head bolts, you got to oil the threads a little bit. So get a little bit of oil. Let's put some oil on the finger. And just get a little bit of oil on each bolt. And just kind of wipe it on the bolt. That it is real light video things. Rolls in the thing. Okay, now that we've got all the bolts started, we're going to start torquing the head. Okay, now the first step of this is on this Tercel, is you torque the bolts in the correct sequence to 22 foot-pounds. Now the sequence, when you torque a cylinder head on any parts really, is you want to go from the inside out. The inside, in other words, it bolts most towards the middle of the head and then slowly working towards the outside. So these two bolts are the most center bolts. So I'm going to do this 1, 2, probably 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that. Okay? And that's so the head seals, the gasket seals right. For example, if you tighten the outside bolts first, what happens then is you then have pinned the head down against the block on the ends, and it's like, have you ever nailed a board together on either end and then look through the boards, you're going to see light through the middle. That's because you've caused a tension between the fasteners, the nails in this case, and the boards. And now if you're going to try to pull that down in the middle, you're not going to be able to do it because you got that tension between the two fasteners and the part that's being fastened. So in this case it would be the cylinder head. So if you try to tighten down the outside first and pin it down and then try to pull it down the middle, you're not going to be able to do it. And what's going to happen is your gasket's going to leak. So it's real important to tighten from the inside out. Okay, so here we go. Here's the first step. Here's 22 foot-pounds. All right. 24. Okay. Now the next step is 36. So you're going to wind up the torque wrench here to 36. Right there. 36. Again, same pattern, inside out. It's really important you hold a torque wrench at that point. If you don't, your torque reading is going to be wrong. Okay, so that's 36. And then what I like to do is I like to check my torque, and sometimes the bend ones will get a little loose. Got to be tidy out to make sure I have it for 36. Okay. Now the last step in this process is the bolt's got to be turned 90 degrees, so in order. It isn't torque, and what they want to do is they want to stretch the bolt to make sure it pulls down enough. So 90 degrees is like 1L. So the way I do it is I see which way the end of the wrench is pointing. I put the 90 degrees in, so it's pointing right when I'm done at that point there. And then I kind of go like that. That's 90.
Hi Steve.
How you doing?
How are you?
Good, good.
Okay, just see you, yeah.
Okay.
I don't have, sorry. I don't have cellular to me. Hey. How are you?
That's 90.
Huh? What? Working, yeah. New car, huh? Yeah.
Okay, so now the next step is you want to put in the camshaft. So you want to make sure you oil all these bearing surfaces first so they're dry. Turn it on there. No, dirt and crap off it. Oops, it doesn't go yet. I'm sorry. Okay, the next thing is followers in your lifters. I got them all marked out on this board here. I think you can see it. That's the order that they came off. They have to go on exactly like that. So actually, the right way to put on these clips, the clip actually goes on the stud mount first, and it just kind of snaps on here. And if it snaps on, then you actually put the rocker strap. That's the set. So now you got all your lifters on there, followers. You can install the cam. Cam caps. Okay, so like we said before, the cam caps are numbered. So you got number one cap will have one arrow, two will have two, and then three will be three from the front of the engine. And then the end ones they can only go on one way. This has got a wired bolt pattern in that one, so it's only going this way anyway. Again, you want me to put some oil on there. Oil actually on it. So number one will be this one in the front. Try to really get all the oil off of that mating surface. Really good idea. I'll probably squeeze it out though. And the arrows always point towards the front cam sprocket end of the engine. So now when you tighten these camshaft caps, it isn't a lot of torque, but again, you're going to go from the middle and then to slowly kind of work towards the outside. You're pushing, you're pressing the springs of the lifter, so it's an opening valve. You're going to feel some resistance. So it's normal. Screwing into aluminum too, so don't tighten it. Just heads out of the head.